on the one hand, shut the fuck up, Leandros, because shut the fuck up, Leandros.
No, he's fucking annoying.
Yeah,
he's making more Leandroses, if that's how you say it plural.
Yeah.
Imagine that. He's a chaplain. He's going to be making other Ultramarines into a Leandros.
Oh no, he's breeding. He's breeding.
Welcome, everybody. Pint Cellar episode 1, featuring the hosts of On Air with Jarvis, me, Lewis Jarvis, and Hubrecht. How's it going, man?
Hey, Lewis, how's it going? I'm really happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's always awesome to have you on, man. And I'm actually happy to announce that Hubrecht here is actually going to be an official host of our brand new podcast here. So I can't wait to see what both of us can create.
Hopefully, I'll, sorry. Ladies and gentlemen, hello. I have a full time.
Not my tempo.
Sorry, screw that up.
Continue. The show must go on. Continue.
Okay. I have a full-time job now here with Lewis, so I'm no longer a guest. So that's an achievement.
Yeah, but don't expect money because I don't get money.
Yeah, he's very cheap.
Or no, when I say, "Hey, Hubrecht, we got to record," he's like, "Oh, sorry, I can't this weekend." And I'm like, I'm not asking you. I'm telling you. And I drag his ass. And
yeah. Basically, he pretty much made this channel without my consent. They just said, "Hey, we're going to record this day," and I was like, "Okay."
If you want to see your dog again, you're going to record.
Help! He has my dog. I haven't seen him in weeks.
So yeah, this is Pint Cellar, a shop talk sort of podcast in which we talk about whatever we want to talk about, but don't actually expect us to talk about alcohol. So
unless Badger comes around here, because then he will want to talk about alcohol because, he likes it quite a lot. So do I, except Lewis. Lewis is the weird one who decided to make a podcast about a pint filled with beer and doesn't actually drink it.
Well, I have a weak stomach. And here's I can have like vodka mixed with root beer or rum and coke, but no, I can't drink straight alcohol. I'm sorry, it's gross. And
yeah, okay, fair enough.
I can't even drink wine, but I know a 6th grader who can drink wine.
You cannot drink wine?
I can't drink wine. Imagine that, an Italian Catholic who can't drink wine.
You're a disgrace to your own kind. How dare you, sir, speak to me?
I betray my own people.
Traitor, disgrace, exile. How can you not drink wine? Oh, you know what? Forget it. I could spend hours just berating you. Like, not drinking beer is one thing. Not drinking strong spirits is another. But not drinking wine? You're part Italian. You're part Italian.
Well, what do you want from me? I don't drink wine. I don't like wine.
Flagellate yourself for this atrocity.
It's not. Fuck you. We're continuing.
Yeah, I know. No, but getting aside, I'm actually shocked a bit. I'm a bit shocked.
I thought I told you this before. I'm surprised you forgot.
You told me you didn't drink beer. I didn't know wine was included in that.
I made a tweet about that once.
I don't remember. But anyway, who knows? Since everyone wants to leave Twitter now, who knows?
Well, I'm already trying to leave Twitter because I have enough with Elon Musk. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I mean, we should have seen that coming with that shitty name change. To be fair, I'm not gonna call it X.
I refuse to call it X. No one calls it that.
No one calls it that.
And here's the thing: Blue Sky is basically Twitter too. Don't argue with me. It is Twitter too.
Yeah, but I'm too lazy to make another account at this point.
Oh, whatever. I'll build up my Blue Sky on my own.
Yeah, you do that. Fine.
But back on track. All right. For real, though, the whole Friar Night thing that we have going on, it's no different from VTubers. I'll be honest. It is just more for aesthetics. But we're not like chicks with like watermelon sized breasts who are forced to cover their hips. So
yeah, we're not cute anime girls, unfortunately. So if you were looking for that, you're gonna be disappointed.
But there is an actual reason why I decided to go through the whole friar look, right? It's not so random, or it's not so random as people might think. Both me and Hubrecht here are Catholics ourselves, so it's not, again, not completely random. Plus, it fits with the channel's lore that I actually have written down just for the fun of it.
Yeah, I actually, when you suggested the theme to me, I actually liked it a lot from the beginning. It made me think a lot of that one painting of this plumpy jolly old friar just having a big pint of beer. You know the one. Mm-hmm. I think it's in the thumbnail of this podcast. So honestly, it seems like a good idea. And well, when Lewis decides to tell you the lore, I think you'll find it entertaining.
And I'm telling you the lore right now because it's quick and easy. 2 friar monks actually got trapped in their own beer cellar, and now to kill time, they decided to start a podcast because they can't escape. And plus, all the alcohol gives us a reason why we act the way we do for this show. Yeah,
it's actually a very good reasoning for why we talk about so many random subjects,
and why we act the way we do.
Yeah, we weren't born like this, people. It's the alcohol talking.
The imaginary alcohol, but really right now I'm drinking water.
Yeah, so am I. Maybe I should, grab a beer. To make it more thematic.
Not right now. But actually, Svi, the man who actually made our channel logo, actually, he was actually telling me that every cellar actually needs a monster or creature of some kind that hides underneath. So maybe we'll do like a mascot sooner or later. So I'm thinking like a hunchback goblin or something like that. Maybe that could be Badger.
Yeah. Hey brother, there's a badger in the cellar. He's drinking all our beer.
Yeah, it's some kind of like gross like goblin badger thing.
Yeah.
But he gave his own Badger gave himself his own like character he wants to do. What was it called?
I don't remember. I suggested to him that there's a knock on the door, like, hey, there's a Turk on the door. Should we let him in?
And that does give him a reason why he can drink alcohol then as a Turk.
Yeah.
But
Badger's a bad boy.
But back from on air, we mainly talk about Warhammer, and there's no reason why we can't talk about that hobby here and there, as it is still my hyperfixation and something I still care about, right? And with that, actually, and I'm surprised we never got a chance to talk about this, but we're going to talk about it now because I really wanted to talk about this from the previous podcast, but never got the chance. So, Space Marine 2. It basically reaffirmed that 40K is still 40K and gaming is still alive, but I don't think I'm ever going to play the game. So, Hubrecht, what do you have to say about it?
Okay, the first thing I have to say about it, why are you never going to play the game? Are you not even going to try to get it or at least play it a couple of times?
I don't have a PS5 and I don't have a powerful enough laptop to play it, so what am I supposed to do?
Fair enough. The thing about Space Marine 2 is that I imagine that, and I imagine too that you two in the audience have seen, these phrases floating around that Space Marine 2 feels like a game like from 10 years ago or like from 2007,
That ought to be a good thing. It's not a cinematic movie.
Yeah, that's not that's a good thing. And I actually agree. It reminds me of it feels like a game that was done first and foremost to be fun. And that seems,
no, you're not supposed to have fun. You're supposed to have this complex conversation about why 40K is actually satire, or why humanity is actually the bad guy compared to aliens and demons.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the great irony that a genre of entertainment called gaming, games, seems so foreign to simple fun and enjoyment these days is not lost on me. And so to have a game that seems to prioritize having fun first and foremost is such a breath of fresh air. Like,
no fun.
Yeah, no fun allowed.
God hates fun.
Here's The Last of Us 2. Here's The Last of Us 2. And at least in my opinion, the game itself doesn't reinvent the wheel. A lot of the things that happen in a lot of the mechanics from the game are things that technically you've seen before. You've done them before. You shoot, you throw grenades, and you have melee combat. But it's also very well polished, and it does really it captures two things: the power of being one of the Emperor's Angels of Death, because you feel like a one-man army as a Space Marine should feel, and the sheer level of dread of fighting a Tyranid infestation, because you feel very powerful, but at least to me, it never made the Tyranids feel like inconsequential. It never made them feel weak or like chaff.
Mm-hmm. And I think this is one game mechanic that I didn't notice when I was watching videos about the game, right? It's where you can parry.
Oh, yeah, you can parry.
Yeah, so that seems really fun, especially how looks like you get stronger by doing it.
Yeah, you can execute smaller enemies immediately if you parry them at the moment that they are going to attack you. Awesome. You parry them perfectly. And I don't remember because it's been like a couple of weeks since I played the game. I've been away from home. But I think parrying regenerates your shields, although maybe I'm just imagining that. Executing enemies regenerates your shields. Actually, that's something they did that was kind of a pet peeve for me on the original. Is in the original, when you executed an orc, it regenerated your life. But part of me... Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, you can still take damage from other orcs.
Yeah. Yeah. So you kind of need to chain into several executions just to, survive. In this one, you don't take damage as you execute. You have inventory frames. But what I liked is that what regenerates is not your health points, it's your shields, the integrity of the armor. Because part of me always felt like, regenerating health by killing someone, if you put it in the in-lore context, that sounds something like a very cornate thing to, a very cornate ability, sounds very chaotic to me.
Do not whine. Your god demands blood. I provide.
Yeah.
all right, Linn, because that's a line from a Calgar comic, and Calgar is actually in that game, in this game.
Oh, yeah. I was surprised that Calgar was in the game.
Yeah, that was actually pretty awesome to see.
Yeah, it's funny, right, that there's actually very few 40K video games where actual,
big lore
relevant characters show up in them. I suppose that's because to make it self-contained, I suppose, but normally they have like a small cameo or something, but never, be part of the narrative.
Yeah, and that was awesome to see.
Yeah. I was halfway expecting Gilliman to show up.
Oh, if he shows up in the third game, that'd be epic.
Yeah. Although, to be fair, I kind of would like that future entries of Space Marines kind of jumped between the different chapters, personally.
I don't know. It's like when we think Space Marine, like the video game, we think of Titus and his Ultramarine. So it's like, I think that's just part of the identity of, Space Marine. It's kind of like the idea of Dawn of War is sort of like orbiting around the Blood Ravens,
Well, yeah, I suppose that you're right in that regard. But, since the game is called Space Marine, not Ultramarine. Then I was like, always thought that it would be cool to have other entries focused on other chapters besides the Ultramarines. Is that my copium because I want to see a Black Templar game? Maybe, but hey, I have to wish it, right?
And you know what? I think we waited the game for a whole decade, and it's not a spoiler by saying Leandros is in this game. It's not a spoiler by this point.
Everyone has seen it now. Like everyone has seen it now.
And here's the thing: he hasn't learned a fucking thing.
Yeah. It's funny because I mean, on the one hand, shut the fuck up, Leandros, because shut the fuck up, Leandros.
No, he's fucking annoying.
Yeah,
he's making more Leandroses, if that's how you say it plural.
Yeah.
Imagine that. He's a chaplain. He's going to be making other Ultramarines into a Leandros.
Oh no, he's breeding. He's breeding. But it's funny because in the campaign, there's this event where, Titus's newest squad mates, Gadriel and Chiron, are kind of becoming standoffish with him because, well, this lieutenant they never seen just got assigned to their, to command their squad. The chaplain is on Titus' case, that the chaplain is Leandros, but we didn't know that at the moment. And so the events of Space Marine 1 and Titus' involvement in it, and the fact that he was dishonorably made into a Black Shield in the Death Watch started to come out. So they're kind of like in a standoffish, point in their relationship. They're kind of like, I want to be in another squad. I don't trust you. That sort of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And there's this moment where Titus says that kind of himself blames himself for how Leandros turned out. Because when he said, like, when I was a young captain, one of my warriors, had questions, had doubts, and I refused to, kind of like to guide them properly. I waved him away.
What was he supposed to do? What was he supposed to do when a chaos invasion was happening right then, and he didn't know why he has like such resistance to the warp? What was he supposed to do?
Yeah, I know, but at least in canon, like, Titus partially blames himself for how Leandros turned out. At least partially.
Partially because Leandros is a bitch. He reported to the Inquisition.
Yeah, and you know what the funniest thing about Leandros, and I think many people have pointed it out, that for all Leandros's, bunking of the, boinking of the Codex Astartes, he himself disgraced the Codex Astartes because when he reported Titus to the Inquisition, that's not how you are supposed to report suspicions of heresy from a battle brother. You're supposed to go to the company's chaplain.
Or maybe he did know that, but he just didn't want to be Titus be in the chapter anymore because he just couldn't stand that there's someone like a captain who just doesn't want to follow the Codex like he does.
Yeah, I know, but so Leandros is a hypocrite, basically. Like, one thing would be that he will be an asshole, but he will kind of be consistent. But no, Leandros is a hypocrite. And it's funny because you know what the funniest thing about that is? Like,
what?
That when the chaplain appeared in the game for most of the campaign, most people had a positive reaction to him because, seeing a chaplain, modeling games, seeing him speak and, speak his words of wisdom, giving sermons. That's very awesome. But then everyone was like, oh, I love this guy. And then, oh, that guy is Leandro. Oh, I hate this guy,
Yeah, cause it only makes him being an asshole in the game or him on being Titus's ass worse because it's Leandros.
Yeah.
It makes it much worse.
Yeah, honestly, it comes a point where you kind of start seeing it coming that, no, that this guy's going to be Leandros. But, part of me wish, that he kind of had fallen to chaos so we could shoot him.
Yes.
But honestly, for all the hatred he was glad to see him again. I'm glad that they gave it continuity. That gave the story of the first game relevance in the second.
Yeah.
They just didn't turn the page and forget about it.
Yeah, because I was really hoping for that there's at least a scene in which they talk.
Yeah, and well, we got that. It wasn't very, we didn't see Titus speaking to Leandros as Leandros a lot because when he spoke to him, he was as the chaplain. He didn't know it was Leandros, but we got that, and there's a hint that there's going to be story DLC, so we're probably going to see Titus and Leandros having to work together. So a lot of people are saying, "Oh, will there be a Leandros redemption arc or something like that?" Who knows?
And there were like bits here and there where there's Necron tech and Necron architecture. So imagine a DLC in which they fight Necrons. That'd be cool.
That would be cool because one of the planets in game is a Necron tomb world, and the tomb world is empty, or I don't know if it's dormant, it's empty or whatever. But so a big question was like, okay, if it's a Necron tomb world, where are all the Necrons? So it will be cool. They got added to the game, and there's a hint that new enemies are going to be added to the game. Whether that means just new enemy types and units to the existing factions, or completely new enemy faction in the shape of the Necrons, I don't know. But hopefully we get an expansion on that.
Mm-hmm. And there's just actually one fair criticism about Space Marine 2, which I think is valid. It's that there's not so many or not as good of villains in the second game when compared to the first game, because in the first game the most memorable villain is Grimskull, and then there's Nemroth, a Terminator chaos sorcerer, and that's awesome. We don't see something like that often. But whereas in the second game, we just have like a typical, Thousand Sun sorcerer. So I don't think he has much of a wowness when compared to Nemroth. But what do you think?
Right. So, Grimskull is it's funny because Grimskull is, by all intents and purposes, a very textbook orc, but he's done so well that people hold him in high regard. And when it comes, the Space Marine suffers that problem. I thought that the Thousand Sun sorcerer's name is Imra. I thought he was okay. I thought he was okay as a villain. Like, he wasn't super memorable, but he wasn't forgettable either.
And he wasn't like a how some 40K fans will try to portray something like chaos. It's like, oh, you don't understand. It's necessary for me to worship demons and sacrifice people to Tzeentch or Khorne because you see, the Imperium is bad.
Yeah. I mean, they were very clearly, the antagonists. They were very clearly the bad guys in the game. And I was actually surprised because, first of all, I was glad that the Thousand Suns got a video game debut because they're one of the most unique Chaos factions, and I don't think we've ever had them in a video game as far as I know.
I don't think so, yeah.
Yeah, so I was glad that we got to fight them. Mm-hmm. And here's the thing, I like that of course, Imra does the whole chaos spiel of, oh, the Emperor lied to us, you should
Did he do that? I don't think
that's, oh, sorry?
Did he do that? I don't think he was a 30K Chaos Marine. I think it's more like, yeah, you see, I like doing this because I'm evil.
I mean, I don't know if he was, if he has any expanded lore in which he is part of the original Legion. He briefly mentions in the game that, the Emperor lied to us all, and, that sort of spiel, but he never goes so far as to say, it never goes as bad as, they are just misunderstood. I'm glad they didn't do that. I like seeing the Thousand Suns, being actively sentient, being actively malicious, because, they have a tragic background of how they came to chaos, but, not all Thousand Sons characters have to be Ahriman, you know?
Exactly.
You know, Ahriman is his own character, you know, let him be you know, people like Ahriman because, you know, he's a fully fledged Chaos Marine, but he's kind of sympathetic, but not all of them need to be that way.
Not all antagonists has to be sympathetic.
Yeah.
I can't believe we have to say. I can't believe we have to say this.
Yeah, honestly, it has gotten ridiculous to the point like it's become self-parody, you know.
That's the point. That's the point. It's satire. You're not supposed to enjoy. You know, here's the thing. Here's the thing. We won't go on this forever, but here's the thing. There are like VTubers playing Space Marine 2, right? And it's something I've never seen before, and they love the aesthetic, they love the story, they love the characters. But imagine some like jackass coming in and being like, "Oh, actually, 40K is satirical."
Yeah, like the new people coming in from Space Marine 2, you know, always new people. Some of them are going to be likable. Some of them are going to be unlikable.
I mean, they like Space Marine 2. They like the game, but I'm talking about quote unquote veteran being like,
"Oh, you're right. Yeah, okay,
so it's satire."
Yeah, the ones that be killjoys. Oh yeah, you're enjoying this. You're enjoying, you're enjoying the setting. You're enjoying the thing, and this comes in. Actually, it's satire. You're not actually supposed to like it. You know, this guy, you're not actually supposed to like him. And I'm like, that's not how stories work. You know, you don't just get attached to a character just to tell. You know, you don't make a reader like attached to a character.
And then sell merch.
And then tell them, "Oh, well, you're not supposed to like it." I mean, can the character be, morally questionable or, not agree with everything he does? Yes, but he's a fictional character in an extremely extreme fictional setting. That's par on course,
Like, Marnius Calgar doesn't eat babies. So it's like, come on. That's not, someone questioning, oh, so I really like this guy? It's like, well, he's not eating a baby. Come on.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is that, the problem with that is that even kind of like recent publications of 40K have kind of like hand-waved the satire thing away a bit. Because
no one thinks this. No one thinks about that 40K satire. No one believes this.
Yeah.
They only did that because of what was going on back then. Right?
Yeah.
Everyone was held hostage at that time. Just saying.
Yeah. And what I mean is that I don't remember if it's recent White Dwarf or that visual encyclopedia that released just a little while ago that explains 40K has become a morally complex, setting for great stories, yada yada yada. And it's kind of like this idea that it's all just a parody, it's all just a parody. It doesn't really seem to even fly anymore. Like, I think there's even interviews with the creators, with Rick Priestley, that he says like, it isn't, I simply thought it was a setting for cool stories.
Yes.
Kind of the romantic part, and by romantic, I mean romantic in the traditional sense, not related to love. Mm-hmm. That, for example, the reason people like the Imperium is because, in my experience at least, because they love the whole debacle of the Imperium's existence.
Yes.
We must secure mankind's survival, and that's, at the end of the day, that's the ultimate good for all species, because, first directive of all living things is to ensure their survival and the survival of their species, right?
Yeah, but here's the thing. They're not nice about it.
Yeah, they're not nice about it. To do the ultimate good, the first directive, I must be brutal and callous. And that's, tragic, in a sort of way. And people love that. They love this conundrum. They love this, the Imperium can be anything from villainous to anti-heroes to even heroically tragic. They can
and there are
be anything. It's kind of like that. Yeah, like that's kind of like where the beauty of it is.
Yes, and there are books that do that. It's like, and there'll be like a Caiaphas Cain book in which, he and Imperial Guards are, the heroic good guys in war. But then comes something like, Twice Dead Cain, in which the Necrons see the Imperium of Man as this like, approaching horror to them. And that what makes it cool.
Yeah.
Because of how you can, use the Imperium of Man as multiple ways. And that's interesting.
Yeah, and that's just the Imperium. Like, we're not even talking about the others.
Mm-hmm. And, we're on the subject of something of, quote unquote satire. So I'm going to talk about another thing that people say is also satirizing in 40K, and that's Catholicism. Because, the Imperium of Man also rocks the whole Catholic aesthetic. And it all makes you think of like Powerwolf because of the, how awesome that aesthetic is. But then they'll be like, oh, you don't understand. It's making fun of it. It's satire. And it's like, well, your satire sucks because this is awesome.
Yeah. Here, the thing is, as both Lewis and I are religious men, right?
Mm-hmm.
Most religious people I've met that like 40K love the Gothic aesthetic, love the over-the-top, zealotry of the Imperials and of Chaos. And, technically speaking, everyone in 40K is a zealot in one way or another, now that you think about it.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
But, and I mean, it's kind of like a play on, it's a caricature of, religious devotion.
Mm-hmm.
But here's the thing.
It works.
It works.
The enemy.
Like, it works. Like, funnily enough, the wider narrative of the setting kind of like makes you understand that yes, the religious zealotry has had negative effects, like like mob mentality, persecution, and the like. But on the wider scale, it's technically religious faith in the Emperor that has held the Imperium together. So. And that's kind of the irony of the story of the Emperor, a guy that wanted to eliminate religion, ironically being preserved only because of religious faith in him that he never wanted. So the thing he hated the most has become the thing that has saved him in a way. Whether, of course, it's kind of vague how alive the Emperor is, in what form, and how has he done it, but it's heavily implied that religious faith in it has just made him stronger and has enabled him to fight chaos better. And if that has achieved the goal that he always wanted to achieve of opposing chaos, then isn't that a good result?
And and that exactly is the case. And if it was really satire, then the whole faith in the Emperor wouldn't work. And I think you made a post about that. But because it does work, and because there are little angels of the Emperor, and demons are afraid of
miracles happen.
Yeah, and the ecclesiarchy. That's not exactly satire then, because it works.
Yeah, like it's not a very good satire if what you're supposedly mocking has the results that it wants,
Yeah, exactly. So I think it's more of a cop-out.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that the religious faith in the Emperor kind of like works the best, as an irony of, it's funny because when you think about it, kind of 40K in a way, it's kind of saying, in a way, whether this is intentional or it's me extrapolating things that were not intended, or is it just my headcanon? Who knows? But, just basing oneself on how the story of 40K goes, the wider story of the setting. It's kind of a story of, 40K is kind of telling us just how enlightened materialistic atheism doesn't work. You know what I mean? Because that's what the Emperor wanted, and that backfired and turned into a monotheistic religion, basically,
That basically is what happened, because in the first 3 Horus Heresy books, we see that happen, right? There are people, there were actual humans on board Space Marine ships being like, you don't understand, religion is backwards, we're enlightened, we don't need any of this, right? They're on board of, we only live in this world only for a brief time, then that's it, right? Very materialistic. But as soon as Horus went unconscious, people turned to worship of the emperor with it's like a few characters who sincerely believed in the emperor being God. So it's like, and there are videos that explain about something like this, and that's just what happens.
Yeah, and like also there's kind of like the plot point that the imperial truth was in all intents and purposes a religion that already worshipped the emperor. They just didn't call him a god. There's that. There's also that point to be made.
Yeah.
And yeah, honestly, it has the supposed religious commentary and portrayal in 40K has never bothered me personally, and most people that I know that are devout in their religious beliefs, whether they be Christians, Muslims, Buddhists, whatever, a lot of them actually kind of dig it a lot because it's so badass. That's kind of like the main reason is this looks so badass, man. You have stained glass windows atop of tanks with flamethrowers. All right, don't tell me you don't imagine something like Powerwolf being played in the background. When you have cathedrals that drop from orbit and cathedrals to spaceships.
Yes, that's awesome. That looks cool, but it's awesome. Not satirical.
I mean, it's over the top to be sure,
but it looks cool.
Yeah, it looks badass, and that's all it needs to be, at least for me.
It's like, they ruined the Blood Angels. Recently they ruined the Blood Angels. We all know that. We talked about that. But before they ruined them, we had our Catholic Italian vampires.
Yes. I mean, you can call the Templars that as well, but, it's different. Blood Angels were more Renaissance, and Black Templars and the Dark Angels are more Middle Ages.
Exactly. But considering that this is a British company, they basically told King Henry VIII to get fucked because Rome has the gravity.
Rome has the gravity. Yeah, I mean, to be fair, most Anglican churches are just Catholic churches where,
it's diet Catholicism.
It's diet Catholicism. Heresy are gonna heresy. Honestly, never bothered me. In fact, it kind of like a lot of people find it endearing. Like, say about the type of stories about, how the overzealousness of the Imperium can backfire and cause damage. Sure, you can have that. But a lot of the time it's kind of like we kind of need to be overly zealous because we're fighting hell itself and, 5 other different flavors of the end of the apocalypse. So it's kind of like, I always seen it as, we're in a situation where there's no room for half measures anymore.
Exactly. And that's what makes 40K cool.
Yeah.
But they don't want it to be cool. They want it to be boring.
Well,
Killjoys.
There's 40. Oh, I don't know much about Warhammer 40K. Can somebody explain it to me? Well, the first thing is that you're actually not supposed to like it. Like, that is I thank God every day that when I got myself into 40K, the people I first met when I was buying my first box of minis that eventually became my friends were people that liked the thing, that actually liked the thing, and they were like, and they encouraged people to like and read and, explore the setting instead of like, wagging their finger at them.
That's exactly the case. Or it's like, you see, the Imperium of Madness is evil, tyrannical thing, but also it has to be progressive in representation because it has to reflect the world we live in today. So it's like, do you want it to be progressive or backwards? You can't have both.
Yeah, you can have both. It's funny because a lot of these people will get triggered when you say chaos is evil. Like, the forces of hell.
You don't want to understand, all right? Saint Celestine could be a representation of a false angel, like a false angel of light. Therefore, you should worship a bloodthirster.
Yeah, it's funny because the forces of chaos actually utilize that motive a lot. there will be this culture and this planet worshipping a chaos god without knowing, worship it as if it was, merciful and kind and good god, and just for when the thing, the chips to fall down, be revealed of, that we're worshipping essentially an eldritch abomination. That's actually kind of that's not uncommon to see.
Actually, I did want to bring this up because it is something I also find interesting, right? You've been working on the Death Guard, right?
Yeah, I've been building, and I'm waiting for some paints that I need, but I've been working on at least a squad of Plague Marines.
Yeah, and just looking back on something like 8th edition, it was a really cool time seeing the Death Guard coming out when 8th edition was happening, right?
Yeah.
Just seeing those models at the time, it was really an epic time for me when, I was still fresh into 40K because I got into it by 7th edition, but seeing something like Death Guard come out, that was really epic timing for me. But what do you have to think looking back on, something like Dark Imperium?
Well, as you say, my first box of 40K was also Dark Imperium, so the Death Guard were the first, Chaos Marines I was ever exposed to. And now, while Nurgle is not my favorite Chaos, and that would be Khorne, I always thought their models were really, really cool, even if they were not my bread and butter. And it's funny because I do have a box of World Eaters, but I haven't built them. But I chose Death Guard. I chose to build a squad of Plague Marines because I've been, I haven't painted anything in almost a year. So I want to get back in the horse. But I'm at that point in which I'm like, I want to get back, but I feel like I'm going to screw things up. It's not going to be very good. I kind of feel like I've forgotten everything the few things I feel like I already knew, et cetera, et cetera. So actually Badger was the one that recommended this to me, that, buy a box of Plague Marines because they're supposed to quite literally look like shit.
Yeah.
They're kind of very forgiving, on, painting mistakes, they're very forgiving on that. So I'm going to try my hand at that.
Yeah, and that's actually really good advice, actually. And, if I were to have another go at Death Guard, I think I would do mine in the original Legion colors because I pictured the body horror working well with it. And yeah, I do know you told me that something like that does exist. They're called the Weeping Legion or somewhat.
Yeah, the Weeping something, I don't remember.
But, here's the thing. I do what I want, so it's my own original idea, despite it not looking original, right? It's kind of like me wanting to paint my Skavens with red armor. That technically exists, called Clan Verminous or something like that, but I don't care. I do what I want, because you don't see someone painting their, Space Marines blue and say, oh, those are Ultramarines.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how I see it.
I mean, it's funny because it's funny that you mentioned Skaven. I've been thinking of at least getting a Stone Vermin or something, because new Skaven models are so good. They're so good. You wanted I like the Stormcast and the Slaves to Darkness. I've said this a lot of times, and I'll say it again. I like AOS, but I've never fully liked a faction enough to marry myself to that faction. In 40K, I like almost all factions in some way or another. But of course, my favorite factions, the one I will always come back to, are my Black Templars. I don't have anything like that with AOS. I like all of them, but I don't like them over the others, enough to say, okay, these are going to be my main guys. The Skaven may change that, because they are so good,
I'm actually thinking, I'm having a really good time with the Red Ogres. I'm thinking my next project would be the Gracier, right? I was thinking of painting him to be like an albino Skaven. So He's gonna be very white, especially with his robes. But for his eyes, I was thinking of making them like a shade of purple. Like I know
I like that.
I know the idea is that they should be green because he's high on, warpstone. But I don't know. I like the idea of making like this extremely rare Skaven even more exceptionally rare because he's albino.
That's going to inflate his already inflated ego a lot.
Yeah. So I was thinking, and to emphasize,
someone's trying to sabotage me. Yes.
But you can't look at the sun for so long. But I was thinking of painting him, giving his robes like a very white color to emphasize like his quote unquote holiness as a gray sheer,
Yeah, I like that. That's a good idea.
Yeah, it's like different shades of white. So it's like one part of his robe is Korax white, and the upper half of his robe, or I don't know what you would call that piece. It's my bold titanium white from Pearl Quill because that's the most white paint you can get.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's very bright white. It makes Korax white look gray in comparison.
Okay. Didn't know that.
Yeah, I love that paint, but you have to learn how to actually use it.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. Yeah, honestly, I'm tempted to buy a box of Stormbeam, but that is just compulsion buying, so I need to, get, reduce my pile of shame a bit,
Well, I'll tell you about Pulse buying because I was thinking of buying some mega mobs. No, mega knobs.
Mega knobs.
Mega what's it called? Orcs and giant mech armor.
Yeah, mega knobs? Mega knobs, I think.
Yeah, mega knobs, yeah. I like those, and I really like painting orcs with green armor or orcs with yellow armor, so I want to do that with mega knobs.
You want to paint the rich orcs then?
Yeah, because orcs look good in yellow for me.
Yeah, I'm honestly thinking I have some orcs lying around. I feel like my favorite orc clan are the Goths, but the thing is that those have block armor, and I think that there's already enough Templars, so maybe I will go with the Cult of Speed, the red ones go faster.
Evil Sons, yeah?
Yeah, the Evil Sons, yeah.
That's technically what Grimskull was. He was from the Evil Sons, so someone made good comments that if he were to take the warp device, he'll probably put it onto his motorcycle or something.
Yeah. Yeah, that would look... that an orc would love that, I know that.
Yeah, an orc powering his motorcycle with, hell energy. That's...
Yeah.
He's almost like part Iron Warrior.
Hell on wheels, basically.
Holy shit, it is! But actually, because for this channel I want to talk about Catholic lore here and there, as it's not necessarily a Warhammer channel. So I want to bring up this subject because I find it a bit ironic too, considering how it's used today, right? So we all know that the upside down cross, or and media these days, or and for some occults, or many occults actually, it's their rejection for God and the ultimate symbol for Satanism. But here's the thing, that's the cross of St. Peter, and many people don't know this, especially Catholics like me back in high school when I learned about that.
Yeah, it turns out that symbol is just the cross of St. Peter, because St. Peter was crucified upside down because he believed himself to be unworthy of dying the same way as Christ did. So yeah, like I love the fact that that kind of has turned around, and now every time I see that, most people would say like, "Oh, that's the cross of St. Peter," and while I cannot, I'm not an expert on symbols. I know a fair amount of them, but but you'll start realizing that a lot of what's considered occult symbolism is nothing more than Christian symbolism, but with the series file.
The series file taken off. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. If, for example, I think the best example of this, other than the cross of St. Peter, is the pentagram.
Yeah,
Now,
that's
when
right.
when people see a pentagram, they immediately think some dark rituals, some satanic dark ritual or something like that,
Mhm.
But in the Middle Ages, the pentagram was actually used to symbolize the 5 sacred wounds of Christ as well.
Mhm.
It's to the point that in the stories of King Arthur, the pentagram is on the shield of Sir Gawain as a homage to that.
Oh, cool. And that kind of tells you that Satanists aren't creative because they can't create anything. They just take
Evil.
they just try to take something and corrupt it, but they can't corrupt it because they don't understand what they're doing. So
Yeah. What did Tolkien say? Evil cannot create, only corrupt and twist and destroy.
but they couldn't even corrupt it because you tried flipping the cross, but you didn't create something sacrilegious. You made something more religious because that's the cross of the first pope.
Yeah, basically. I mean, it's kind of like in a way, it could be considered a bit of like a self-own.
It is a self-own
It's a self-own.
because Peter acts that out of humility. Humility, yes. Yes, that's how you speak English. He did that out of humility because he didn't see himself dying the same manner as Christ did. But Satanists, they don't have humility because they want to be the contrarian.
I mean, whether they be the ones that say, "Oh, we're not actually worshiping the ones that actually believe that they are." I mean, the guy, you cannot have humility when you're literally venerating the guy who embodies pride. You know.
Petty pride.
Yeah.
And it's like your Prince of Darkness lost his golden fiddle to a random hillbilly in Georgia, so don't waste my time.
I love that song.
Excuse me, are you part of the cult? We're not a cult. We just believe in spreading love, and yeah, this is it.
This is the cult. Living up in the mountains, away from everyone, no one can leave.
Yeah, and as people might know, this channel's not going to be Satanist friendly because we can't take you seriously.
Yeah, no, we cannot. And I apologize for nothing with this religious talk. I don't apologize for nothing. We're completely unapologetic.
And we don't need to be apologetic because you guys are cringe.
Yeah.
All right, and his name's probably not actually Lucifer because people think it is because of a poem written in the Middle Ages.
Yeah, it's if anything, it's an epithet. In fact, Satan is also technically an epithet. I mean, that makes him. That makes it a bit more that gives it a bit more mystique in a way. Like we don't know what the devil's actual name is. Huh.
Well, his name is Satan, is it not? Because that means adversary.
Yeah, but that's also that's also a title. It's
well, yeah, but it's like it's the idea of like his name's not. I think someone was telling me this that Lucifer is not technically the devil's name, as there are like saints named Lucifer, and Lucifer being described as bringer of light and morning star can also be applied to people like Jesus.
Yeah, well, yeah. But what I mean is that that's more of a title, but
yeah,
but Satan can also be used as a title.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
But either way, he lost his golden fiddle.
Yeah, basically, he lost his golden fiddle.
Despite him, right? Being from a religion from Middle East. Here's the thing: he still has a Georgian accent. Even during creation, he talks as if he's from Georgia State.
I never met anyone from Georgia. I don't know how they talk.
It's like, why, hello, I'm Billy of Georgia.
Okay.
Imagine him talking to Eve like that. It's like, why, hello, darling. Why not eat the apple from the tree of knowledge?
One can wonder how he succeeded. Oh, well.
But actually, with that, I think this concludes our pilot episode of Pint Cellar. And there'll be more to come, and I can't wait to see what me and Hubrecht can create. But before I call it a close, is there anything you actually want to say, Hubrecht?
Nothing more than I'm glad to be here. I'm glad to still be podcasting with you, Lewis, and I hope that we can. I hope that we can have fun doing this new channel. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, and there's definitely topics I can't wait to cover with you that aren't necessarily Warhammer based, and I think it's going to make for a great podcasting material. So I can't wait to see what we can create with each other, right?
Right.
And with that, expect future videos, and I can't wait for us to cover them. And with that, actually, thank you all for watching, and we'll see you all again next time with a brand new video. So take care and good night.